Kang Minho stepped off the transport shuttle and felt his boots touch alien ground for the first time. The air on Nexus Prime tasted different. It was thinner than Earth air and carried strange smells he could not name. Purple grass stretched across the landing field under two orange suns that hung in a green sky. The Galactic Military Academy rose before him like a massive crystal mountain. Its towers twisted into impossible shapes that hurt his eyes to follow. Other cadets walked past him toward the main entrance. Most were twice his size. A blue-skinned being with 4 arms bumped into his shoulder. It looked down at him with yellow eyes and made a sound like grinding metal. Minho understood it was laughing at him. "Human," the creature said in broken standard. "You lost, small thing. Nursery school is other planet." More beings gathered around. Minho counted at least 6 different species. All of them were bigger than him. All of them were staring. "I am not lost," Minho said quietly. He kept his voice steady like his grandmother had taught him. "I belong here." The blue creature made the grinding sound again. "Humans play with fire sticks and live in mud houses. This place for real warriors." A voice cut through the crowd like a blade. "Cadet assembly begins in 5 minutes. Move along." The beings scattered quickly. Minho turned to see who had spoken. A human woman in a crisp uniform stood behind him. She was tall and had short black hair. 3 silver bars gleamed on her collar. Her dark eyes studied him with interest. "You must be Kang Minho," she said. "I am Lieutenant Commander Park Subin. I will be your survival instructor." Minho straightened his back and saluted. "Yes, ma'am." "Thank you for the assistance." Park Subin smiled slightly. "Save your thanks. In 3 days you might curse my name instead." She gestured toward the academy entrance. "Follow me. Time to meet your squad mates." They walked through corridors filled with impossible technology. The walls seemed to glow from within. Floating screens showed star maps and battle formations. Minho tried not to stare too much. He did not want to look like the primitive human everyone expected. "How many humans are here?" he asked. 3 this cycle, Park Subin replied. "You, myself as instructor, and 1 other cadet who arrived yesterday. Humans are still new to the galactic community. Most species think we are not ready for military training. What do you think?" She stopped walking and looked at him. "I think humans have survived ice ages, world wars, and plagues without any alien technology. We are tougher than we look." They reached a large room filled with young beings from across the galaxy. Minho saw creatures with scales, fur, metal skin, and things that might have been skin but looked like liquid crystal. The noise was incredible. Dozens of different languages mixed together. A tall figure stepped onto a raised platform. It was humanoid but stretched too long, like someone had pulled it from both ends. Its skin was silver and its eyes were completely black. When it spoke, the room fell silent. "I am Commander Veltar," the being said. Its voice echoed strangely. "Welcome to your final test before true training begins. You have been divided into squads. Each squad will spend 3 days in the Forbidden Zone." Excited sounds filled the room. Some cadets looked eager. Others looked worried. "The Forbidden Zone contains the most dangerous predators in known space," Commander Veltar continued. "Many of you will not return. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to prepare you for reality. War is coming to our galaxy. Only the strong will survive it." A floating screen appeared above the commander. It showed images of creatures that made Minho's blood run cold. Massive things with too many teeth. Flying beasts covered in razor scales. Something that looked like a living shadow with burning eyes. "You will carry minimal supplies," the commander said. "No weapons except basic survival tools. No communication devices. No rescue signals. You succeed by living. You fail by dying. Squad assignments are now active on your personal devices." Minho checked the small tablet he had been given. "Squad 7, meeting room C in 10 minutes. He felt his heart beating faster. Park Subin appeared beside him. "Nervous? Should I be?" "Yes," she said simply. "But that is good. Fear keeps you alive. Overconfidence kills." Meeting room C was smaller than the main hall. 4 other beings waited inside. Minho studied his new squad mates. The first was about his height but covered in golden fur. It had cat-like eyes and moved with deadly grace. Its tablet showed the name Yuki. The second creature was enormous. It looked like a cross between an octopus and a boulder. 8 thick arms ended in delicate fingers. Its name was Kix. When it saw Minho looking, it waved 3 arms in what might have been a friendly greeting. The third being made Minho step back. It stood over 7 feet tall and was built like a living weapon. Its skin was dark red and covered in natural armor plates. Scars crossed its face and arms. This was Dara, and everything about her screamed dangerous. "So," Yuki said in perfect standard, "we get the human." Her voice was musical but carried sharp edges. "This should be interesting." Kicks made a sound like water flowing over stones. The translator on Minho's tablet interpreted, "I have never met a human before." "Are you really as weak as they say?" "I guess we will find out," Minho replied. Dara had not spoken. She stood with her arms crossed, staring at him with red eyes. Finally, she made a sound like rocks grinding together. "I do not work with prey animals," the translator provided. "This human will be dead before the second day." "Then you will carry one less pack," Minho said calmly. Something flickered across Dara's face. It might have been surprise. Park Subin entered the room carrying a large bag. "Squad 7, your supplies." She dropped the bag on the table. "Food for 3 days if you are careful. Water purification tablets, basic medical kit, multi-tool, emergency shelter that will keep out most predators if you are lucky." She looked at each of them in turn. "The transport leaves at dawn. Get some rest. Eat well tonight. Tomorrow you enter a place where everything wants to kill you." As the others filed out, Park Subin caught Minho's arm. "A word of advice," she said quietly. "Trust your instincts in there. Humans have survived by reading danger better than most species. That skill might keep you alive when technology fails." That night, Minho lay on his narrow bunk and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow he would face the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. He thought about his grandmother's old dog, how it would obey a firm voice even when it was angry. He thought about the way wild animals back on Earth would sometimes pause when humans approached them confidently. Outside his window, alien stars wheeled across an alien sky. Somewhere out there, things with claws and teeth waited in the darkness. Minho closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Dawn came too early on Nexus Prime. The orange suns had barely cleared the horizon when Squad 7 gathered at the transport pad. Minho shouldered his pack and tried to ignore the churning in his stomach. Around him, his squad mates prepared their gear with varying degrees of confidence. Yuki moved like liquid gold, checking her equipment with precise movements. Her cat-like eyes gleamed with excitement rather than fear. She seemed to view the upcoming trial as entertainment. Keek arranged his supplies across all 8 arms with careful efficiency. The massive being hummed a low tune that made the air vibrate. Despite his size, there was something gentle about the way he handled even the smallest items. Dara stood apart from the group, her red armor gleaming in the morning light. She had added extra weapons to her pack that were barely within regulation limits. Her scarred face showed no emotion, but Minho could sense the predator energy radiating from her. Park Subin approached carrying a data pad. Her expression was serious in the morning light. "Listen carefully," she said. "The transport will drop you at grid. Reference 7. 7 Alpha. That puts you on the outer edge of the Forbidden Zone. You have exactly 72 hours to reach the extraction point at grid. Reference 9-2 Beta." She activated a holographic map above her pad. The terrain looked impossible. Dense jungle gave way to rocky canyons, then to what appeared to be a swamp filled with moving shadows. "The distance is approximately 40 kilometers, Park Subin continued. "That sounds manageable until you consider what lies between you and your destination." The map zoomed in to show red warning markers scattered throughout the route. Each marker indicated a known predator den or hunting ground. "Razorwing hunters patrol the jungle canopy," she explained. "Tunnel serpents burrow beneath the canyon floors. The swampland is home to acid spitters and worse things we have not yet classified." Yuki raised her hand. "What weapons are we permitted?" "Your multi-tool has a small plasma cutter for emergencies only. It will work on vegetation and basic materials. Against the predators you will face, it might as well be a flashlight." "Then how do we survive?" Kix asked, his translated voice carrying genuine concern. Park Subin looked at each of them in turn. "You use your intelligence. You avoid confrontation. You remember that every species represented here has survived for millions of years by being smarter than the things that wanted to eat them." Her eyes lingered on Minho for a moment longer than the others. "The transport arrives in 5 minutes," she said. "Any final questions?" Dara spoke for the first time that morning. "How many squads have completed this trial?" "In the past 10 years, roughly 60% survived to graduation." Of those, perhaps half actually reached the extraction point without rescue intervention. The transport was a sleek military craft that hovered silently above the pad. Squad 7 climbed aboard and strapped themselves into crash seats. Through the windows, Minho watched the academy shrink below them as they rose into the green sky. The flight took 30 minutes. As they approached the drop zone, the landscape below changed from civilized settlements to wild, untamed terrain. The jungle stretched endlessly in every direction, broken only by the silver threads of rivers and the dark scars of canyons. 2 minutes to drop, the pilot announced. Weather conditions optimal. Predator activity within normal parameters for this sector. Normal parameters, Minho thought grimly. That probably meant only moderately lethal, instead of instantly fatal. The transport settled onto a small clearing surrounded by towering trees. Each tree was easily 200 feet tall and thick enough that 10 people holding hands could not reach around the trunk. Alien vines hung like curtains between them and strange bird calls echoed from the canopy above. "This is your stop," the pilot said. "Good luck, cadets. Try not to become someone's lunch." Squad 7 disembarked and watched the transport disappear into the green sky. Suddenly, the jungle seemed much larger and more threatening. Yuki consulted her navigation device. "Extraction point is southeast. We should make good time if we travel through the morning and rest during the heat of midday. Assuming something does not eat us first," Dara added. They began walking single file along what might have been an animal trail. Yuki took point, using her natural grace to move silently through the undergrowth. Minho followed, then Kix with Dara bringing up the rear as their designated guard. The jungle was unlike anything on Earth. Plants glowed with internal light. Insects the size of dinner plates hummed past their heads. Somewhere in the distance, something roared with a sound like tearing metal. After an hour of hiking, Yuki held up her hand for silence. She pointed ahead where the trail split around a massive fallen log. On top of the log sat something that made Minho's blood run cold. It was roughly the size and shape of a large cat, but its fur was midnight black and seemed to absorb light. 6 legs ended in claws that looked like curved blades. Most disturbing were its eyes, which glowed red like burning coals. "Shadow cat," Dara whispered. "Stalker-class predator. We should go around." But as they began to back away, more eyes appeared in the undergrowth around them. The cats had been hunting as a pack, and Squad 7 had walked directly into their trap. Yuki drew her multi-tool and activated the plasma cutter. The small blue beam looked pathetic against the assembled predators. "Stay close together," she ordered. Back-to-back formation. The shadow cats began to move. They flowed like liquid darkness between the trees, circling their prey with patient hunger. One stepped forward, clearly the pack leader. It was larger than the others, with scars across its face that spoke of many successful hunts. Minho felt something strange happen as he looked at the approaching predator. Time seemed to slow. The cat's movements became clearer, more predictable. He could see the tension in its muscles, the calculation in its burning eyes. Without thinking, he stepped forward and spoke in a calm, firm voice. "Easy now. We are not looking for trouble." The shadow cat stopped mid-stride. Its head tilted to one side, ears pricking forward with what might have been curiosity. The other cats also paused, watching their leader for guidance. "Minho, get back here," Yuki hissed. But the lead cat had not attacked. Instead, it sat down and continued staring at him with those burning eyes. Its tail twitched once, then went still. After a moment that felt like an hour, the cat rose and padded away into the jungle. The rest of the pack followed, melting back into the shadows as if they had never been there. Squad 7 stood frozen for several heartbeats. "What just happened?" Kix asked. "I have no idea," Minho replied honestly. Dara studied him with new interest. "That was either very brave or very stupid." "Probably both," Yuki said. She deactivated her plasma cutter and shouldered her pack. "Let's keep moving before they change their minds." As they continued deeper into the forbidden zone, Minho could not shake the feeling that something was watching them from the shadows. Whether it was friend or foe remained to be seen. The second day in the forbidden zone began with screams from above. Squad 7 had made camp in a shallow cave for the night. The rocky overhang provided some protection from the strange sounds that echoed through the darkness. Minho had taken the first watch, listening to his squad mates sleep while alien creatures moved through the jungle beyond their small shelter. Now, as the orange suns climbed higher, something massive crashed through the canopy above their heads. "Move," Yuki shouted, rolling away from the cave mouth just as razor-sharp talons scraped against the stone where she had been sleeping. The creature that landed in their camp was a nightmare made real. It stood 6 meters tall on powerful legs built for speed. Its body was covered in metallic feathers that gleamed like polished steel. 2 enormous wings spread wide, casting shadows across the entire clearing, but it was the head that made Minho's breath catch in his throat. The skull was elongated and predatory, filled with rows of teeth like broken glass. Its eyes were black pools that reflected no light. This was a razorwing hunter, and it had found them. "Scatter pattern Delta," Dara commanded, grabbing her pack while drawing her plasma cutter in one smooth motion. The squad spread out as they had practiced. Yuki went left, her golden form disappearing into the undergrowth with cat-like grace. Kix moved right, his massive bulk surprisingly silent among the trees. Dara took center position, placing herself between the predator and her squad mates. Minho found himself closest to the creature. He could smell it now, a sharp metallic scent mixed with something rotten. The razorwing turned its terrible head toward him and let out a sound like tearing steel. More crashes echoed from the forest around them. This hunter had not come alone. "It's a pack," Yuki called from her hiding spot. "I count at least 5 more circling us." The lead razorwing took a step forward. Its talons left deep gouges in the stone. Minho noticed how it moved, the careful way it tested each step. This was an intelligent predator, one that had learned to hunt in groups and use tactics. A second razorwing dropped from the canopy near Kix's position. The gentle giant was too slow to dodge completely. Razor-sharp talons raked across his back, drawing purple blood. Kix cried out in pain and stumbled. "Kix!" Minho shouted. The wounded being tried to stand but collapsed again. One of his arms hung useless at his side. The second razorwing circled him like a cat playing with wounded prey. Dara fired her plasma cutter at the creature, threatening Kix. The beam struck its wing, causing it to shriek and pull back. But plasma cutters were designed for cutting metal, not fighting. The weapon would run out of power quickly. "We need to retreat," Yuki called. "Find higher ground or water. Something to break their advantage." But the razorwings had them surrounded now. 6 of the creatures formed a loose circle around Squad 7. They moved with the patience of experienced hunters who knew their prey had nowhere to run. The largest razorwing. The pack leader stepped closer to Minho. Its head lowered until those black eyes were level with his. He could see his reflection in their depths, small and vulnerable. The creature studied him with an intelligence that was deeply unsettling. It tilted its head, much like the shadow cat had done the day before. But this time Minho sensed no curiosity, only cold calculation. The razorwing opened its beak. Rows of glass-sharp teeth gleamed in the morning light. It was preparing to strike. Time seemed to slow again. Minho felt the same strange calm that had come over him during the shadow cat encounter. The world became clearer, more focused. He could see the tension in the creature's muscles, the slight shift of weight that meant it was about to attack. But this time was different. The razorwing was not a ground-bound predator that could be reasoned with. This was a killing machine that had evolved for one purpose: to hunt and destroy. The creature lunged forward. Minho dove to the side, feeling wind from the massive beak as it snapped shut where his head had been. He rolled behind a fallen log just as talons raked the ground he had occupied. "The eyes," Dara shouted. "Aim for the eyes. It's their only weak spot." Yuki appeared from the undergrowth, leaping onto the back of the razorwing that had wounded Kix. Her plasma cutter carved a line across its neck, and the creature stumbled, but her weapon flickered and died, its power cell exhausted. The injured razorwing threw her off with a violent shake. Yuki hit a tree trunk hard and slumped to the ground, dazed. Now it was just Minho and Dara facing 6 angry predators, with 2 wounded squad mates who could not defend themselves. The pack leader advanced again, this time more cautiously. It had seen that these small creatures could fight back. But Minho could read the decision in its black eyes. It would kill him first, then the others at its leisure. Kate tried to crawl toward his pack, leaving a trail of purple blood. One of the razorwings noticed the movement and turned toward the wounded being. This creature was smaller than the others, probably younger and more eager to prove itself. "No," Minho said firmly. The young razorwing paused, confused by the sound. Minho stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible. He spoke in the same calm, authoritative tone he had used with dangerous animals back on Earth. Back off. Now. The young Razorwing took a step backward, its head tilted in that same curious gesture the Shadow Cat had shown. But the pack leader screeched angrily, clearly unhappy with its subordinate's hesitation. The lead creature spread its wings wide and let out a roar that shook leaves from the trees. It was establishing dominance, reminding the younger hunter who was in charge. But something unexpected happened. As the pack leader's cry echoed through the forest, Minho felt an answering response rise in his chest. Without thinking, he opened his mouth and let out a sound that surprised even him. It was not quite a shout and not quite a roar. It was something deeper, more primal. The sound carried authority and confidence that seemed to come from somewhere beyond his conscious mind. The effect on the Razorwings was immediate. All 6 creatures stepped backward. The pack leader's wings folded against its body, and its aggressive posture shifted to something more defensive. For a long moment, human and predator stared at each other. Then, incredibly, the pack leader lowered its head in what could only be described as a bow. The other Razorwings followed suit. One by one, the creatures spread their metallic wings and launched themselves into the air. Within moments, Squad 7 was alone in the clearing. Dara stared at Minho with wide red eyes. "What did you just do?" Minho had no answer. He was as shocked as the rest of them. But there was no time to think about it now. Kix needed medical attention, and Yuki was still dazed from her impact with the tree. "We need to tend to the wounded and keep moving," he said, surprised by how steady his voice sounded. As he helped Kix to his feet and checked Yuki's injuries, Minho could not shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed. The creatures of this world were responding to him in ways that defied explanation. High above in the Academy's monitoring station, Commander Veltar watched the recorded footage with growing interest. The silver-skinned being replayed the encounter 3 times, focusing on the moment when the human cadet had faced down 6 of the galaxy's most dangerous predators. "Most interesting," the commander murmured. "Most interesting indeed." The 3rd day brought them to the edge of nightmare. Squad 7 had traveled through the night, pushing toward the extraction point despite their injuries. Kix's wounds had been treated with their medical supplies, but purple blood still seeped through the bandages on his back. Yuki moved more carefully now, favoring her left side where she had hit the tree. Even Dara seemed tired, though she would never admit it. Only Minho appeared unchanged by their ordeal. If anything, he seemed more alert, more aware of their surroundings. His eyes constantly scanned the forest, reading signs that his squadmates could not see. "The extraction point is just beyond that ridge," Yuki said, checking her navigation device. 2 more kilometers and we complete the trial." The ridge she pointed to was a rocky outcrop covered in twisted trees. Dark shadows filled the spaces between the trunks. Something about those shadows made Minho uncomfortable. "We should go around," he said quietly. Dara looked at him with sharp red eyes. "Why? That path will add hours to our journey. We are already behind schedule." Minho struggled to put his feeling into words. Something is wrong about that place. The birds have stopped singing. Even the insects are quiet. "So?" Dara challenged. "Perhaps they sense us coming." "No," Minho said firmly. "They sense something else. Something that makes them afraid to make any sound at all." Kix shifted his massive bulk uneasily. "The human may be right. I feel it too. A wrongness in the air." Yuki studied the ridge through her enhanced vision. "I see movement in the shadows. Large shapes that do not match the trees." They found shelter behind a fallen boulder and observed the ridge for an hour. What they saw made their blood run cold. The shadows themselves were moving. They flowed between the trees like liquid darkness, sometimes taking shape, sometimes becoming formless again. Whatever lived in those shadows was unlike anything they had encountered before. "I need to check the database," Yuki whispered, activating her educational scanner. The device contained information about known predators in the Forbidden Zone. After several minutes of searching, her golden fur stood on end. According to this, those shadows matched the description of something that should not exist, she said. "The Shadow Maw, a creature from the old legends." She shared the information with her squadmates. The database entry was marked with warning symbols in 12 different languages. Shadow Maw. Scientific classification unknown. Last confirmed sighting over 200 years ago. Presumed extinct. Description: Massive quadruped predator capable of natural camouflage approaching true invisibility. Length estimated at 12 to 15 meters. Height at shoulder approximately 4 meters. Possesses advanced intelligence and hunting strategies. No known method of capture or termination has proven successful. Approach is absolutely forbidden. If they are extinct, then what are we looking at? Dara demanded. Maybe the database is wrong, Kix suggested hopefully. Minho studied the moving shadows with growing certainty. They are not extinct. One of them is still alive, and we just wandered into its territory. As if summoned by his words, the largest shadow began to take shape. What emerged from the darkness was beyond their worst nightmares. The creature was massive beyond belief. Its shoulders stood higher than the trees. The body was wolf-like but stretched and enhanced, covered in fur that seemed to absorb light itself. 4 legs ended in paws the size of boulders, each equipped with claws like curved swords. But it was the head that truly terrified them. The skull was huge and predatory, with jaws that could swallow a speeder whole. Eyes like burning coals stared down at them with ancient intelligence. This was a creature that had lived for centuries, hunting and killing everything that entered its domain. The Shadow Maw stepped fully into view and let out a sound that was felt more than heard. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Rocks tumbled from the ridge above. The very air seemed to vibrate with the creature's presence. "Run," Yuki whispered. "Where?" Dara asked. "It can move faster than any of us." And look around. They were surrounded. More shadows were taking shape on all sides. The creatures had been hunting as a pack, driving their prey into this exact spot. But as the shadows solidified, they realized their mistake. These were not other Shadow Maws. They were the remnants of previous hunting expeditions. Bones and equipment scattered across the ground told the story of cadets and soldiers who had faced this creature and lost. The Shadow Maw was alone. It had always been alone. The other shapes were just echoes of its past victories. "Our weapons are useless," Dara said, but she drew her plasma cutter anyway. "This thing has survived military strikes. What can we do that trained soldiers could not?" The massive predator began to circle them, moving with impossible silence for something so large. Its burning eyes never left them. It was in no hurry. It had all the time in the galaxy. Minho felt the familiar calm settling over him. But this time it was different. Deeper, stronger. He could sense something ancient awakening in his mind, memories that were not his own. "Stay behind me," he told his squad mates. "Are you insane?" Dara grabbed his arm. "That thing will tear you apart." Minho gently removed her hand. "Maybe, but running will not save us. Fighting will not save us. This is our only chance." The Shadow Maw stopped circling and faced him directly. It lowered its massive head until those burning eyes were level with his. The creature's breath was hot against his face, carrying the scent of ancient hunts and countless kills. For a moment that lasted forever, human and predator stared at each other. Minho felt as though he was looking into the heart of the wild itself, into something that had existed since the galaxy was young. The Shadow Maw opened its jaws. Teeth like broken stars gleamed in the dim light. Its muscles tensed for the killing strike. Minho thought of his grandmother back on Earth. He remembered her voice, firm but kind, as she taught him to handle animals that were frightened or aggressive. He remembered the old dog that had bitten 3 people before coming to live with them, how it had learned to trust, to obey, to become part of the family. "Sit," he said in the same tone his grandmother had used. The command was simple, clear, absolute. The galaxy's most feared predator, the creature that had destroyed entire military units, the beast of legends that was supposed to be extinct, sat down. Its massive haunches settled to the ground with a sound like falling boulders. The burning eyes never left Minho's face, but the killing hunger had been replaced by something else, something that might have been recognition. Behind him, Minho heard Kix make a sound of pure amazement. Yuki whispered something in her native language. Dara stood frozen, her weapon hanging forgotten in her hand. The Shadow Maw tilted its enormous head to one side, much like a curious dog. Then incredibly its tail began to wag. The motion was so large it created small windstorms in the clearing. High above, hidden cameras recorded everything. In the Academy's command center, alarms began to sound. Emergency protocols activated as monitoring staff watched a human cadet do the impossible. Commander Veltar leaned forward in his chair, his black eyes reflecting the screen. Bring me everything we have on human evolutionary history, he ordered. And contact Dr. Choi Jiwan immediately. I believe we are witnessing something that will change our understanding of the galaxy forever. The Academy rescue teams arrived to find something that defied all logic and training. Squad 7 sat in a circle around a small cooking fire. Kix was having his wounds properly bandaged by a medical drone. Yuki was sharing ration bars with Dara, who actually seemed to be smiling. And in the center of it all, Minho was gently scratching behind the ears of the galaxy's most feared predator. The Shadow Maw had stretched out like an enormous dog, its massive head resting on paws the size of boulders. Its tail thumped contentedly against the ground, creating small dust clouds with each movement. The creature's burning eyes were half closed with what could only be described as pleasure. Captain Lee Tae-hyun, leader of the rescue team, stood frozen at the edge of the clearing. His trained soldiers remained behind their weapons, unsure whether to fire or flee. None of their combat protocols covered this situation. Cadet Kang Minho, the captain called carefully. Please step away from the creature slowly. Minho looked up from where he had been examining the Shadow Maw's massive claws. There is no danger, sir. It will not harm us. That thing has killed hundreds of soldiers over the centuries, Captain Lee replied. Move away now. That is an order. The Shadow Maw lifted its head at the sharp tone, its eyes fixed on the rescue team with sudden attention. A low growl rumbled in its chest, causing the ground to vibrate. Easy, Minho said softly, placing his hand on the creature's snout. They are friends. The growling stopped immediately. The Shadow Maw settled back down, but its eyes remained watchful. Captain Lee activated his emergency communication device. Command, this is Rescue 7. We have reached Squad 7's position. They are alive and unharmed, but we have a situation that requires immediate specialist response. Within an hour, the clearing was filled with scientists, xenobiologists, and military observers. Dr. Choi Jiwan arrived on the first transport, carrying enough scanning equipment to outfit a small research station. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick movements. Her black hair was pulled back severely and her lab coat was covered in equipment pouches. She had spent most of her life studying the galaxy's most dangerous predators, but she had never seen anything like this. Remarkable, she murmured, setting up her sensors at a safe distance. The creature's brain patterns are completely different from our previous readings. Look at these neural pathways. She showed her portable screen to Commander Veltar, who had arrived on the second transport. The silver-skinned being studied the data with growing fascination. These patterns suggest relaxation, even contentment, the commander observed. How is this possible? I do not know yet, Dr. Choi replied, but I intend to find out. She approached Minho cautiously, her scanners recording everything. The Shadow Maw watched her with lazy interest but made no threatening moves. Cadet Minho, I need to ask you some questions, she said. How did you know to give it that command? Minho looked up from where he was now examining the creature's massive teeth. I did not know. It just felt right. Like talking to my grandmother's dog when it was upset. Your grandmother had dogs? One old dog. It had been mistreated before she took it in. She taught me how to speak to it with authority but without anger. Firm voice, calm body language. She said all animals understand respect and confidence. Dr. Choi made rapid notes on her data pad. And you use the same approach here? Yes, this creature is not evil or cruel. It is just very good at hunting, but underneath it wants the same things as any animal. Safety, food, companionship. As if to prove his point, the Shadow Maw rolled slightly to one side, exposing its massive belly. Minho began scratching the fur there, and the creature's back leg began to twitch in apparent happiness. Impossible, one of the military observers whispered. We have tried everything to capture or control these creatures. Weapons, technology, force fields, nothing has ever worked. Dr. Choi was scanning the interaction with increasing excitement. The neural response patterns are unprecedented. The creature is exhibiting behavior we have never observed in apex predators. It appears to be genuinely bonded to the human. She paused her recordings and looked directly at Minho. Can you make it perform other commands? I suppose we could try. Minho stood and brushed dirt from his uniform. Come on, friend. Stand up. The Shadow Maw rose to its full height with fluid grace, standing next to Minho. The size difference was almost comical. The creature's shoulder was 3 times higher than the human's head. Walk with me, Minho said, beginning to move toward the tree line. The massive predator fell into step beside him, matching his pace perfectly. When Minho stopped, it stopped. When he turned left, it turned left. The bond between them seemed natural and effortless. "This is going to sound strange," Dr. Choi said to Commander Veltar, "but I need access to the Galactic Archaeological Database. Specifically, any records of ancient humanoid species and their relationships with wildlife." "What are you thinking?" "I am thinking that what we are witnessing is not an anomaly. It is a recognition pattern. This creature knows something about humans that we do not know about ourselves." Over the next several hours, Dr. Choi ran every test she could think of. She scanned Minho's brain patterns while he interacted with the Shadow Maw. She analyzed the creature's responses to different human voices and commands. She even convinced other members of Squad 7 to try giving orders. The results were fascinating. The Shadow Maw responded to all humans to some degree, but the connection with Minho was strongest. Yuki's cat-like species produced a mild response. Dara's warrior culture seemed to earn the creature's respect. But only humans could establish the deep, immediate bond that made the predator behave like a domesticated animal. "I need to return to the academy immediately," Dr. Choi announced as the sun began to set. "There are records I must examine, archaeological data that might explain this phenomenon." Commander Veltar looked at the Shadow Maw, which was now lying peacefully beside the campfire, while Minho prepared dinner. "What do we do with the creature?" "That decision belongs to Cadet Minho," Dr. Choi replied. "The bond appears to be permanent. Attempting to separate them could cause severe psychological trauma to both parties." Minho looked up from his cooking. "If it wants to come with us, it can come. If it wants to stay here, it can stay. The choice is its to make." The Shadow Maw raised its massive head and looked at him with those burning eyes. Then it did something that surprised everyone. It spoke. The sound was not quite words, but it carried clear meaning. The universal translators on everyone's equipment activated simultaneously, providing the same translation. "Pack leader, I follow." In the stunned silence that followed, Dr. Choi realized that everything she thought she knew about galactic history was about to change. The evidence was becoming impossible to ignore. Humans were not newcomers to the galaxy at all. They were coming home. 6 months later, the Galactic Council chambers had never seen anything like it. Kang Minho stood before the assembled representatives of 200 worlds. Wearing the crisp blue uniform of a newly graduated academy officer, gold bars gleamed on his shoulders, marking him as the youngest cadet to ever achieve top honors in the academy's 1,000-year history. But it was not his academic achievements that had brought him here today. Beside him stood the Shadow Maw, its massive form somehow managing to look dignified despite its fearsome appearance. The creature wore a specially designed harness that identified it as an official military partner. Its burning eyes surveyed the assembled aliens with calm intelligence. On Minho's other side, 3 more creatures completed an impossible sight. A pack leader from the Razorwing Hunters, its metallic feathers polished to mirror brightness. 2 shadow cats, their midnight fur rippling with barely contained energy. And floating above them all, a tunnel serpent that had learned to coil its length around special support pillars. These were the founding members of the Predator Corps, the galaxy's newest and most effective military unit. Dara stood at attention behind Minho, wearing the silver bars of a lieutenant. The proud Catherian warrior had requested the transfer personally after witnessing what humans could accomplish with proper Predator partners. Her scarred face showed none of her former skepticism about human capabilities. Kix and Yuki flanked her, both having graduated with high honors. The gentle giant had discovered a talent for logistics and supply management, while Yuki had become an expert in predator psychology. Together, they formed the command structure of humanity's most ambitious project. Council Speaker Thanemore, an ancient being whose species had governed galactic affairs for millennia, rose from his crystalline throne. His voice carried the weight of ages when he spoke. "Cadet Minho, you stand before this council as representative of humanity's new role in galactic civilization. The evidence presented by Dr. Choi Ji-won has been reviewed and verified by our most skilled archaeologists and geneticists. The conclusions are remarkable." The speaker activated a massive holographic display that filled the chamber's center. Ancient ruins appeared, showing humanoid figures working alongside creatures that were clearly ancestors of today's apex predators. "These sites have been found on over 3,000 worlds," Thanemore continued, "each telling the same story. an ancient spacefaring species that formed bonds with the galaxy's most dangerous creatures. A species that vanished from recorded history approximately 50,000 years ago. The hologram shifted to show genetic comparison charts. Human DNA patterns appeared alongside samples from dozens of predator species across the galaxy. The genetic markers are unmistakable, the speaker announced. Modern humans are direct descendants of these ancient travelers. More importantly, the predator species they bonded with have carried genetic memories of this partnership through countless generations. Murmurs filled the chamber as representatives from various worlds discussed this revelation among themselves. Some sounded excited, others seemed concerned about the implications. Commander Veltar stepped forward from his position among the military observers. His silver skin gleamed under the chamber's lights as he addressed the assembly. The Predator Corps has already proven its effectiveness in 3 major operations, he reported. The siege of Kepler Station was ended without casualties when human-bonded creatures convinced the native predators to withdraw peacefully. The plague outbreak on Meridian 7 was contained using tunnel serpents to deliver medical supplies through collapsed underground networks. And the pirate stronghold in the Vega Nebula surrendered immediately when they realized their guard beasts had joined forces with our human operatives. Dr. Choi Ji-won moved to stand beside the genetic display. Her research over the past months had transformed her from a simple xenobiologist into the galaxy's leading expert on human predator relationships. The bond between humans and apex predators is not merely genetic, she explained. It operates on multiple levels: pheromone recognition, vocal pattern matching, body language interpretation, and what we can only describe as instinctual trust. These creatures remember their ancient partners, even after 50 millennia of separation. She gestured toward Minho and his assembled partners. What we are witnessing is not dominance or control. It is recognition and reunion. These predators are welcoming humanity home. The Shadow Maw lifted its massive head and spoke in the rumbling voice that had become familiar to council members over recent months. Universal translators carried its words throughout the chamber. Ancient pack returns. Balance restored. We hunt together again. A representative from the Zentorian Empire, a species known for their military prowess, stood to address the assembly. This development changes everything. If humans can command the loyalty of apex predators across the galaxy, they possess military capabilities that surpass any conventional force, which is precisely why we must handle this situation carefully, added a delegate from the Catherian War Council. Power of this magnitude requires proper oversight and regulation. Minho stepped forward, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber despite his youth. With respect, honored representatives, this is not about power or military advantage. This is about restoring relationships that existed long before any of our current civilizations arose. He placed his hand on the Shadow Maw's massive flank. These creatures are not weapons to be deployed. They are partners to be respected. The Predator Corps operates under strict ethical guidelines that prioritize the well-being of both human and predator partners. The ancient council speaker raised his hand for silence. The question before us is not whether humanity deserves recognition for their unique abilities. The archaeological evidence makes their heritage undeniable. The question is how we integrate this knowledge into our existing galactic structure. Thanemor's crystalline form shifted as he prepared to announce the council's decision. After extensive deliberation, this assembly officially recognizes humanity as a founding species of galactic civilization. Your ancient claim to partnership with apex predators is hereby acknowledged and legally protected. The chamber erupted in sounds ranging from celebration to concern. Representatives from peaceful worlds applauded the decision, while military species seemed to be calculating new strategic realities. Furthermore, the speaker continued, the Predator Corps is granted full military authorization to operate throughout council space. However, this authority comes with significant responsibilities. Minho straightened to full attention. We understand, Council Speaker. You will serve as guardians, not conquerors. Your unique abilities must be used to protect all species, not advance human interests alone. The galaxy watches to see whether humanity will honor the wisdom of their ancestors or repeat the mistakes of younger civilizations. As the formal session concluded, representatives from dozens of worlds approached to speak with Minho personally. Some offered alliances and partnerships. Others requested assistance with predator-related problems on their home worlds. But it was a small group of human observers in the gallery that caught Minho's attention. Dr. Park Subin stood among them, wearing the insignia of the newly established Human Heritage Commission. Beside her were other humans from across council space, many accompanied by predator partners of their own. The revelation of humanity's ancient legacy had awakened abilities in humans throughout the galaxy. Farmers discovered they could work alongside creatures that had terrorized their communities for generations. Miners found that apex predators would guide them to rich mineral deposits in exchange for respect and companionship. Scientists learned that their most dangerous research subjects became willing collaborators when approached correctly. As Minho left the council chambers with his predator partners, he reflected on how much had changed since that first day at the academy. He had arrived as a nervous cadet from a primitive world. He was leaving as the representative of an ancient legacy that would reshape galactic civilization. The Shadow Maw padded beside him, its massive presence no longer seeming threatening but protective. The other creatures followed in formation, a living symbol of the bond between humanity and the wild forces of nature. Behind them, the wheels of galactic government turned to accommodate a new reality. Humanity was no longer the newcomer struggling for acceptance. They were the inheritors of an ancient covenant with the galaxy's most powerful creatures. The stars themselves seemed to welcome them home.